What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. What goes up must come down. Unless you're talking about video game pricing, of course. And now we have more price increases that have been revealed online for Nintendo, with listings that are almost unbelievable based on where we started. And you know what? It does really continue to highlight just how weird times are right now, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a massive release that could be happening actually later on today. Might be the biggest shadow drop we've ever seen. Of course, this one coming from Bethesda, and a new 3D Mario. What's going on with that, as we were kind of expecting it to maybe be at that Switch 2 reveal? Well, Doug Bowser decided to field this question, and can't wait to see what he had to say. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're gonna start today with a new entry for Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack for that Game Boy Advance app. You can see this trailer that was released by Nintendo, and it's Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stone. So this is really exciting. This would have released in 2005 in the US, so outside of Japan then, and because I think it came out a year before in Japan. This is like the second Fire Emblem game that we got, and we mostly knew Fire Emblem through Smash Brothers back then, and it's a very good tactics RPG. Of course, most people know, or a lot of people know Fire Emblem, I should say now. Back then, it was very much an unknown, and it's cool to see this classic game, of course, going into the expansion pack. It was expected, so technically not surprising to see it here, but it is still fun to have these NSO expansion pack or Super Nintendo games or Genesis games just kind of drop in randomly. In this case, a classic Game Boy Advance game that is available right now. So yes, I recommend checking it out. Even if you haven't played a Fire Emblem game, it was just thrown into the service, so why not give it a shot with very little risk? Clearly, if you have NSO with the expansion pack, it's right there and you can play it now. Also, we got some more details around that Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, specifically battery life and how long it takes to charge. This we can see posted up. This is over on Go Nintendo. They are citing Nintendo's official site, saying it'll take approximately 3.5 hours to fully charge the Switch 2 Pro controller, which apparently the current Switch Pro controller takes 6 hours. I haven't really sat down to time the thing, and here's the deal with the current Pro controller. It lasts forever. I charge it occasionally. I mean, really, it's very infrequent that I feel like I have to plug it in to charge it. Occasionally, I'll go, oh, you know, I haven't charged that in a while. Let me go and just plug this in for a bit here, and that's it. It gets about 40 hours though, and in fact, that's the Switch 2 Pro controller also getting 40 hours on a single charge. So they have worked to cut down on the overall charge time while still just keeping the amount of playtime still the same. And that's the biggest thing with Nintendo's controllers. They do very, very well. While I think it's a shame the Switch 2 Pro controller is missing analog triggers, it's very limited with these digital triggers in racing games, as an example. It is great to see that it gets 40 hours of battery life as opposed to my DualSense Edge that gets a few hours. It's not many, and usually when I'm wrapping up a single play session, I look and it's at 1 bar, which usually means another couple of hours or so. In this case, charge it maybe once every 2 weeks or something at most. Oh, and we had a pretty cool PlayStation blog post that was made for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and we have some images here, and in this blog, we see Sony talk about some of the finer details of the system as they do to Teardown, and things that we really couldn't even see as we were opening it up and checking it out here on the channel. For example, the board itself has more, or extra layers, I say, more layers than the standard PS5, so they can more efficiently route traces that you can't see otherwise. You have to grind the board down or see a schematic they have just to see the layers and how they're running things around. And they also talked about the fan, of course, the CMOS battery that's right there and you can get to easily, and really went in depth as to why they made some of these decisions. So kind of cool if you're just interested in some of the technical side of things with the PlayStation 5 or just gaming in general. Kind of went under the radar a bit, so of course it is linked down below in the sources. You can check it out when you have a chance. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and more price increases, which just seems expected almost at this point. I mean, just in general now, everything feels like it's just going to get more expensive as we go along. So it's not even really headlines technically anymore, but there is something here where I looked at and I said, wow, okay, that in particular feels more expensive than some of the other prices we've heard. Even for an $80 game, I saw this and I was like, okay, that feels more expensive than the $80 game, even though it's technically not. And that has to do with Amiibos from Nintendo. Now, there are still Amiibos coming out. People are surprised by that consistently even now. And I guess it just depends on how much you've been following it, of course. I remember when the Amiibos first came out, they were, what, $15 or $16? And some of them were more rare than others. It felt like it was... Nintendo gets discussed as artificially creating demand by just not shipping out a lot of these items. That in particular felt like it, but also it could have just been the demand was much higher than anyone was really expecting. I think Villager at one point with the first run was incredibly expensive. Some of these Amiibos went upwards of like $100 in the secondhand market, but that was the secondhand market. That's not what they were selling for at retail. So it is a bit different than even this, for example, you can see. And I've been following along because for a little while, GameStop had these prices set. Best Buy and Walmart were a bit slower here to update their pricing, but it looks to be correct. So we have an Amiibo line coming out for The Legend of Zelda, and then we have an Amiibo line coming up for Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6, of course, being third party, you have Capcom involved with their rights, and I'm sure a cut they want from it. That is $40. It's gone up $10. All right. The Legend of Zelda, the new line of Amiibo here, that's $30. All right. So it's, again, Amiibos, hearing an Amiibo, by the way, be $40. That's what I'm saying feels more expensive than an $80 game. It's not, obviously. The $80 game is twice as much. But an Amiibo, I think of Amiibo and I think of that impulse buy $16 thing still from way back when. I know they've gotten more advanced in general, more intricate, and in turn more expensive. But I'm looking at these Street Fighter 6 ones, and sure, like they look cool. I mean, if you're a big Street Fighter fan, you're probably thinking, I'll buy this. Maybe I'll never really use it like that, but it'll be something I'll put up on my desk or my shelf, and it's just a really fun thing to have. And I feel like for most people, that's sort of where Amiibos fit in, right? It's kind of just the collector's aspect where you can display them and it's maybe a franchise that you really like. For example, again, I don't buy a lot of Amiibo, but I bought the Mega Man one because it's Mega Man. I'll put it up on a shelf. It looks awesome. Sure. So when I look at a $40 Amiibo, it sounds crazy. It's not helping Nintendo right now when you see this. And at this point, all the other retailers have updated their prices to reflect this. So yeah, $40 Street Fighter 6 Amiibos. I think that is the case where you go, or many people, I should say, go, you know what? That's kind of expensive. I don't really need that now. Whereas if it's a system like the Switch 2, and they came back and they said it was $550 because of tariffs and stuff, there are people who'd go, you know what? It's the main core system. I'm still going to figure out a way to buy it. Not so much with Amiibo. For me, it's like, yeah, I wasn't going to really get it anyway, but now I definitely not get it because $40, you're halfway to another copy of Mario Kart World at that point. Of course, Amiibos, people were checking into it a bit more and like, oh yeah, okay. Many of them are made, or all of them are made in China and then shipped to the US and other parts of the world. So that kind of lines up with the whole tariff thing that's going on right now with, what is it today? 140 some odd % today. Could change tomorrow for all we know. Now, it is also going up in price in other regions outside of the US, but the way this works with some companies, they can raise the price a little bit in one area alongside of another one where it's actually affected to kind of even things out across the board without having to say double the price in like the US for Amiibo. So in some way, yes, other parts of the world are kind of paying for the stuff that's happening right now in the US, and that's just unfortunately the way it goes. But at least in this case, it's mostly just Amiibos. Although, again, pricing keeps going up. Nintendo's dealing with variable pricing, so who knows what things are going to look like even next year at this point. And next up, let's talk about one of the worst kept secrets in gaming, and that is what looks to me like a remake. It's titled a remaster, but it's that Metroid Prime remaster situation where you look at it and you go, are you sure? It's somewhere between remaster and remake, and that's for Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. I'm very excited for this. I did re-download just the vanilla quote-unquote Oblivion that was 6 gigabytes. Keep that in mind as we get to the file size for this one. I re-downloaded it. I played up to the point where I got out to the world, which was a big deal at that time when it first released back in 2006. Opening up, going out of the sewer and looking around, it was like, this is absolutely incredible. We have completely peaked in gaming. Now I go back and do it and I'm like, okay, this game does need some help, all right? It's still a classic title, but there is a lot they can do to improve with many advancements we've had, yes, in terms of visuals, but also just gameplay in the last 19 years now. And well, looks like we're gonna find out today because you can see this is over on their official YouTube account. and that is all will be revealed. This from Bethesda Softworks for 22/25, April 22nd, of course, that being today, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so MP First has been following along, as well as Nate's been mentioning Oblivion, this remaster remake thing. But MP First says that their sources have mentioned it is shadow dropping today. All right, so I assume we're going to have this stream is going to basically go into them explaining what's happening here with Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, and then it's just releasing on PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. It will also be going into Game Pass day one, so really cool to see that. I'll be downloading it on my Xbox immediately, which is probably a good idea because we also have a discussion around the file size for this one. 120 gigabytes. So, yeah, almost 20 times the amount. I think when I downloaded it was like 6.7 or something gigabytes on the Xbox Series, which they did push the frame rate up. I think they have auto HDR. It looks better in general there on the Xbox Series S, or Xbox Series X. But I am assuming there's been quite a bit of work done here by Virtuos as we had those screenshots come out, and that will be reflected here. Hopefully with a good looking game. Some were worried that it would lose some of the saturation and the blues and the greens that you have with Oblivion, which transitioned in a completely different direction when we got a little further into the Xbox 360 generation, where it was a lot of brown and black, and it was very dreary, I'll say, with a lot of the games we got at that time. And from what I understand, a lot of that worked to sort of cover up the lower resolution and the texture quality not being great. In this case, 120 gigabytes, you assume we're gonna have some very, very good looking textures. But I'm excited to see it later on today. Biggest shadow drop maybe in history? Probably. I mean, it's a storied franchise and a game that many people remember way back when to be that, like, one of those pinnacle releases of gaming to start off a generation like the 360 with Oblivion. It's impressive stuff, sure. So yeah, I'm excited to check it out apparently today, and I'll be downloading on Game Pass immediately when it goes live. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 in Japan, specifically when it comes to rentals for the system. We covered this story a little while ago, and I thought it was funny just because I remember when my family would rent the Nintendo 64 for like get-togethers and stuff with other friends and families, and it was a really fun thing to think back on. But now also see it come full circle back around to the PlayStation 5, where it appeared that it was actually quite popular, and it seems even a month or so after that initial offering, it's still really popular. This, we can see posted up. This is over on Automaton Media, saying 1 month following the initial rush, which coincided with the launch of Monster Hunter Wilds, half of GEOs, that's the chain of 400 stores that are renting these out, saying with rentable PS5s reported still renting out consoles at 100% operating capacity. As for the service itself, you can rent a PS5 from specific GEO stores for 8 days and 7 nights at 980 yen, which is just under $7. So in that case, if you just wanted to rent it for a week, you'd get it for $1 a day. That's actually not bad if you consider the fact that many games now, you might just pick up for the week and you might be done by the end of that week if you're playing. I mean, really think about it that way. Spend $7 for the week rather than going out places, maybe out to like a bar or something. I mean, you're gonna end up saving money in the long run there, just renting a PS5. If you want to keep the console for longer though, you can avail yourself of the 15-day and 14-night plan that costs $12.50 USD, 1,780 yen. Any extensions outside of your initial plan come at 500 yen, $3.50 per day. So that's the big thing here is, seems like the maximum you'd be able to rent one PS5 at a time would be 2 weeks, and then you have to give back. And apparently what they do is they then factory reset the whole system, which, yeah, you wouldn't want someone else to then get a PS5 that maybe your credit card info is stored on, or just personal data even. So yeah, they have to wipe it. The problem you run into is you're not gonna be able to get your same PS5 back. So continuing a long-term game, say like a Monster Hunter, which clearly was one of the big popular titles when it was out that pushed these rentals, you're going to have to figure out a way to get your save data back, which means you're going to subscribe to PlayStation Plus Essential, which here, I mean, in the US is $80 per year. That's basically the only way you're going to be able to keep your save data backed up in the cloud and just go to another PS5 after signing in. So in a way, they kind of got you on that one. And the idea that you can't necessarily keep a PS5 just going forward the same one, you do have to return it. Nonetheless, it seems like most of these stores are operating at like 100% capacity when it comes to rentals. People are taking advantage of it since, yeah, the PS5 is quite expensive in Japan. So you just rent the system when there's a game that comes out that you really want, spend a week maybe playing through it, and then return it, and you're good to go. I mean, at that point, it might be worth having a PlayStation Plus Essentials account. Yes, to take advantage of maybe the couple of games that are there each month and claim them, add them to your account, but also just having your save data follow you along, although Sony should look into that, huh? We've talked about that for a while. The ability to just move saves to a USB stick so that you can back them up locally one at a time, and then you can just hold on to a flash drive when you return the PS5. Still though, interesting ideas here to see in uncertain, we'll say economical times, to come up with ways for the store to make money off PS5s and for the customer to feel like they're getting much more value out of their money. And you know, it is interesting, maybe that makes a comeback where, again, I remember we were rented out N64 systems here and there. Maybe that's something that happens more and more in the future, and people are just renting consoles consistently and it becomes a more popular thing worldwide. I don't know, we'll see about that one. Something about a portable system like the Switch 2 being rented out, maybe not as much, but like the big tank of a PS5 that's not really gonna move out of your living room too often, that might make more sense. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new 3D Mario game, which of course, people are curious what's going on here. While Donkey Kong Bonanza looks awesome, I mean, really, it's super creative looking with the destruction of the terrain, and I'm sure they're going to play into all kinds of really cool 3D platforming puzzles and other aspects to it. But 3D Mario is what a lot of people have been asking for because Mario Odyssey was like legitimately an eternity ago. I mean, it's gonna be 8 years ago at the end of 2025 in October. So many of us were thinking, well, yeah, they're gonna have a 3D Mario game coming up here anytime now, but still nothing. Well, Doug Bowser was asked about this over on CNN, where they say Nintendo didn't reveal a new mainline Mario title during its Switch 2 announcement, but Bowser hinted that it may only be a matter of time. Stay tuned, he said. You know, we have a long catalog and a long list of intellectual property that I'm sure will make its way to the platform. Okay, thanks, Doug. I mean, that's what do you expect him to really say, I guess? He is the PR person. That's what he's there for. He's not green-lighting the big 3D Mario games. He is there to really just try to explain what Nintendo headquarters is doing at all times to the US population and through marketing and yes, PR, public relations. That's really his job. And then localization and stuff with Nintendo of America. In this case though, yes, there is another 3D Mario game in development. I know, it's a shocking revelation. But the thing that I think will be really interesting is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Many people are looking at that and say, okay, well, that's the Mario Odyssey team behind it. And it very well could be, probably is. But I also think that the 3D Mario team for like Mario Odyssey, it was also working on a 3D Mario game as well. Like, I think they've been working on both of these, and I think it'll be kind of interesting to see if that gets announced, maybe say in like a September or October direct to close out the year, and they use that, a new 3D Mario game, to set up 2026 with some of their other releases, we'll say. And I do think this is going to be a pretty big push for Nintendo in the first 18 months or so for the Switch 2 to really get things on track, really move these systems, because I mean, it's expensive just in general, right? So they have to show up with games that make you want to spend more money for it, and a 3D Mario game makes a ton of sense. Mario Kart's up first, and that's $80. So I wonder if the next big 3D Mario game will also be $80, and then the big 3D Zelda game. This variable pricing is it's uncertain times, like I said before. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, what May game releases out of these are you most excited for? Doom the Dark Ages was number 1. Oh, wow, look at the Elden Ring, Night Rain, and Capcom Fighting Collection 2 were tied at 17%. Lost Soul Aside at 8%. I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about Lost Soul Aside. I saw many people in the comments saying Fantasy Life I mean, that game has been, game's been delayed a number of times now, so I mean, it would just be good, honestly, for that game to come out at this point. Seems like it's going to. We haven't heard anything else about, I guess, another delay for it. So that's good. For me, though, looking at this up and down the list, it probably is Doom the Dark Ages. The game just looks great. I mean, the animations, they put out a new trailer recently, visuals, the gameplay, everything looks like it's clicking into place, and it's having kind of that open world style single player game. It just seems like this is Doom, but to the next level. And that's what I was really hoping to see with after Doom Eternals. What more can they do with the franchise? And it seems like the Dark Age is going to be showing that. And then we'll finish up with the comments of the day. We'll start with the members comment you can see here. This is from Logical Error. It says, Paul Rudd looks like he aged only a few years, but it has been 30 plus years. He's aged very gracefully here. And you know what? There was an interview that he did with Brian Altano over at IGN, and it just seemed like he was having a lot of fun on set, checking out the Switch 2, playing it between cuts and stuff when they weren't filming, and seemed to just be having a good time, and mentioned how nostalgic he was for that Super Nintendo era. And he mentioned trying to maybe get away with a Switch 2, and they said, what you got to do is you just got to walk away super confidently. That's it. Like, oh yeah, see you guys, you know, just walking off with the Switch 2. Most people won't say anything to you then. So I mean, that was his mistake there, was to not just take off and just act like you know what you're doing. But now it was a fun interview with Brian Altano with IGN. I would check it out. It is linked down below in the sources. If you want a little more backstory, not only for Paul Rudd when he was filming that between the 91 and 2005, but also even just some of his thoughts around the Switch 2 and just his overall gaming habits. And then we'll go over to the comment of the day here. This is from Nate Ford, who says, I don't understand why people wouldn't want to do midnight releases. They've been some of the most fun I've had in gaming. I say get rid of online hardware sales entirely. Back to in-person and one per customer to reduce scalping. Well, the online sales are never going away, clearly. They just reach a mass audience, and it's super convenient, which is pretty much the thing that most people will look towards first. Convenience. Be able to just get something with a click of a mouse here and there, or just touching your phone a couple times, tapping it, boom, ordered. That's usually going to win out, as opposed to just going to midnight release, waiting in line, and even after pre-ordering, having to hang out there as opposed to just being delivered to your doorstep the next day. Still, though, there is something to be said about just kind of the atmosphere, the environment of a midnight release, and it's just a lot of fun to go there and just be hanging out with other people waiting, who are also very excited for a brand new system or a brand new game. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the midnight releases for the Switch 2, because of course you'll also have a lot of people's takes and opinions and stuff popping up online at like 2 or 3 a.m. checking out the magnets or something on the Switch 2. So it should be a lot of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you want to hear about Nintendo's real test for the Switch 2 and how that's coming up as soon as it launches. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.